Okay, so in this video, we're going to learn how to populate our dropdown. This is a fresh project, so there's nothing in here apart from our asset and some 3D models. We're going to open up our demo file called input type demos. Zoom out a little bit. So in this one, we have a few samples, and these are available in prefab format as well in the demo folder. And the first example just shows you how to use your own drop down that you have pre-populated, and then you can just reference it. And when you do that, you'll already be able to search through it. So you do that by opening up the searchable manager, technical searchable manager, for example 1. And if you go to data population mode, you will see that you have chosen by referencing drop-down list. And then you will just reference it right here. For example 2, we are pre-populating the drop-down by inspector, so we do not need our own drop-down. So if you check, you can just search it. How did we populate it? Let's press on example 2 for technical drop-down manager, and you can see we have chosen by simple import via inspector. It's a very simple way of doing it. And the third version is the main version. It's probably the version most people will be using, and that is by advanced data population. Now, advanced data population means you can either populate your script from this editor using this script right here called advanced data population, or it also means you can populate via code by coding. However, you will use the API available and provided by advanced data population. So let's have a small look at the demos. So pre-populate from within your script. This is a very big list of countries, and it's been populated in by code. So, and then we have another one here. Add data but at runtime. So this is pre-populated, whereas this one, you are literally populating the dropdown at runtime. So if you have a look, the dropdown is empty. And let's go with Steve, populate. If you open this up, with Eve, populate. With Tom, populate. And you see we have populated our dropdown in runtime. And you can search it. Okay. This uses the API, and you can see the API in the documentation. You could do very similar things here. So we have a drop-down list right here. It's being populated at runtime, and then we can replace the entire drop-down at runtime again. You can replace it completely again at runtime. And then the last one populates from an online database at runtime. So let's search for colors. Red. As you can see, there's a bit of lag. It takes some time to retrieve the data from an online database. So the database keeps changing based on that. We've given a small example, and you can reverse engineer a script provided. So if you click on every single one of the managers at the bottom, you'll see populating search demo example. This has a latency slider to mimic latency, and every single demo should have its own demo example provided by clicking on the technical searchable manager, and then you'll see populating search demo example 5. There's 6 of these scripts, each one gives you a different example. Now, we haven't really spoken about the method of advanced data population, but without code. So using this tool right here. I think the best way to demonstrate that is to open up another demo. Let's open the dynamic types color type demo. So this is already pre-populated, as you can tell, and is pre-populated with these weapon icons. So let's have a look and see how this one has been populated, because this has not been populated at runtime. This has been populated in editor. So we open up the TextMesh Manager. We'll have a look. Population wake by advanced data population. If you scroll down, you'll see advanced data population has been filled out with images. And the option selected is add sprites list with a sprite name. So basically what it's doing is taking the name of the sprite and applying it. And at the same time, you could use the sprite names. We could purge this, cache it. So it's already been cached. So we could purge the cache. And now if we press play, you'll notice that the drop down is empty. There is nothing you can search. Completely empty. If we add the cache, so it says current cache size 36, we play. And it's been populated again. Now this data is being cached, but it will only be injected on awake. Another thing we could do is instead of add sprites with the sprite names, we could say add sprites with manual names. So you could basically, let's reduce the size of this to 5. And we could rename them to whatever we want. Can't spell. And we can add to the current database, or we could just purge it first and add a new one. So we'll do that. We have cache size of 5. And you can see it's just the icons, but it's using our own names. Other options is just to manually just add names. This is very similar to the whole by simple input via inspector. This is basically the same thing, but with this one, you could do quite a few other things as well. So we could replace sprites. Instead of adding sprites, we could just replace sprites. This is also part of the API. But more interestingly, in version 2020 plus, or Unity 2020 plus, you could add prefabs instead. How does that work? Now, I have downloaded an asset, and it has a list of prefabs. First, I'm going to clear the cache and then add the prefabs. Actually, first, you should lock your inspector so you can mass drag. Select all these and just drag it to add objects. So there's 200 objects here. And then we want to cache it because we have cleared our cache already. Let's cache it. You can select your folder names because what it's going to do is grab a preview image from every single prefab and add it to your filing system. Let's call it prefab images 1. Let's cache it. This might take a while. It's important to note that this can only be done, the prefab version can only be done in editor. You cannot do this at runtime. So if you do plan to pre-populate your script, do this in editor mode if you want to use prefabs. However, if you already have the images, then you can inject them at runtime using the API. That's that. It's all done. If you look at the log, read the log, it says images saved under directory, assets Microsoft, text search, extracted prefab sprites, prefab images 1 subfolder 2. So if we go to extracted prefabs, and there you go. All the images of the prefabs have been added. Now, if we press play, you will notice that all the images have been added. Now we can search them. You can tell the resolution is a little bit low right now, but that's because we have chosen this resolution. We could purge this data, or actually we can add to this data. We're going to add the same data again, but this time we're going to increase the resolution to, I don't know, 256. It will take more storage space, so be careful. And we're going to cache this. It might take a little bit longer. Actually, it should be exactly the same time. It's just the formatting settings that have been changed. There you go. So now we have another folder, but the images are with higher quality. And now we have cache or 400, which means we just added to the low resolution, the high resolution one. If you click on this, you won't initially notice anything. But if we search acorn, you notice that there's two acorns now, one with high resolution and one with low resolution. Apple. Let's search for Apple. So the second one is a little bit higher resolution. Okay. First, you can increase the resolution higher and higher and higher, and then it will become crisp. Let's try a few with very high resolution. Let's clear the cache, and that was much faster. As you can tell, this one's very crisp. And that's that. If you want to check the API and on how to use advanced data population in runtime, you can just read the documentation. And if you're interested by the color grabber, as you can see, this UI is changing color. Then we have a documentation for that, but we'll make another separate video guide for that too. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.